session slightly, so we're warming up next door ready for an engine. There's more than one reason why you can remove an engine. We had a discussion with the guys next door. Quite a few of them, their fuel gauges don't work. The 401 and a set of decent axle stands like this. Now the axle stands, once the vehicle's up in the air and jacked up, you support the vehicle on axle stands where we put the jack to guarantee that so the guys are taking the engine out. We're taking first, wear some nice latex gloves. Even the men like to have like these days, so something. I mean, I think the record for getting these engines out is about 2.5 minutes. And our customers often say, well, we'll have you charge the extra out to take it out and we've done 2.5 minutes. Because you don't want your paintwork damaged, sir. It's not the normal answer, but you know, obviously everything's got to be done with care. I'm going to get it onto the box here, Andy. Okay. We have got twin carbs. It's very important. And then also replace the flywheel oil seal. The garage is going to probably charge you between £200 and £300 just to replace that seal. So if you can teach yourself to do it and do it when you get home, you can pay for the course and then some. So, but you know, also it's kind of it's not just about that. It's about knowing.
It's very straightforward. Just put a bit of paint on there, mark it in some way or other, so that you know where it came from. I'm doing it quite quickly with.
We've actually got this a flywheel lock because you're probably not going to
have any issues with anything.
So that's your clutch plate. What you're looking for on here is looking for any oil contamination. It's slimy. Bear in mind that
what we do is going that round and it's coming undone.
Very, very important. It's very important when you're changing the fuel hose. You've got to use the right type of fuel hose, the right size kit, and everything else. So that's basically the bolts now off.
Right, so the flywheel is sort of attached to the crankshaft by these four little dowels that come out of the crank that go into 4 holes in the flywheel. To get the flywheel off, all you've got to do is give it a bit of a wiggle, and away it comes. You can see the holes there. Now we've already marked this beforehand with there's a yellow mark there that corresponds to that dowel has got a bit of yellow paint on it as well. So when I come to put the flywheel back on again, I'm putting it back in the same position where I took it from.
You change the flywheel oil seal, that you get your garage, and again this is something, another point, if you're taking your vehicle to a general garage will probably change that seal and be totally unaware that there's a seal hidden in there because they're so old and crusty and flat that you can't actually see or feel them. If you actually have just a little lowering seal there, again yours will have that.
The hole in the crankcase, so a bit of a wipe out just to make sure everything's nice and clean properly. There's a flywheel oil seal installation tool, and it does exactly what it says. It pushes the flywheel oil seal in nice and squarely because it's installed properly, and it's sort of sitting secure at the angle rather than being square to the case. You can literally tap the seal in using a rubber mallet. Don't use a metal one because you can damage the case and damage the rubber seal. And you fit your installation tool in place, and then you can use your Torquemeister as a spanner. It doesn't require a great deal of torque to tighten this up. Wind it in and seat the seal in. Basically, you've got to keep going until you can't tighten it up anymore. That will have pushed the seal all the way home. They tend to fit on quite easily. Never any real misery with put the flywheel back on. They should slide onto the dowels. Relatively straightforward. And then basically use the torque meister tool again with the torque wrench set to 30 foot-pound.
9 times slower, in fact.
9 times slower, yeah. But 9 times easier as well. That's your Conan the Barbarian. There we go. That's tight. The clutch is splined, the friction plate is splined. This sort of sits on that so that when the engine is spinning round, it transfers the power down that shaft into the gearbox and to the wheels. And what you have to do is you have to align those splines with that hole in the middle of the flywheel nut so that everything is in the right place. Otherwise, if you don't use the alignment tool, you won't be able to get the engine back in because nothing will be slightly out and you'll be there all day. Put this in. Back over the top. Put the alignment tool in and get it seated so you can feel that it's gone into the hole in the nut itself. And then basically you just refit your all 8, 6.
2's good though.
2's good, yeah. Essentially you just refit all the nuts, or all the bolts back in, took those up to 18 foot-pound, and then you can refit again.
Invested £1.25 36 years ago.
You can squirt, you can pull the throttle and you can see if it's squirting fuel. There's that bond there basically. You can see there's fuel squirting down.
Bent elbow just at the front there.
If you've got fuel there, then you know.
To the carburettor, it's a delivery device basically. Easiest way of checking to see if the fuel pump is pumping is by disconnecting the fuel pipe as it goes into the carburettor. Now the first thing we would do, earlier on we spoke, when we were removing the engine, we spoke about a fuel clamp off tool, which is what that is. The fuel hose, you put it in and nothing is going to get past that now. It's completely blocked. So on this one we've worked out by tracing the wires that the fuel comes into the fuel pump in the top and out of the bottom. What I'm doing is remove the bottom fuel pipe. Remembering that we've clamped it, at this stage I've removed the fuel clamp, so now the fuel can flow. And then, Andy, if you can pump that over please. Okay, so obviously it started but ours ran, but straight away you can see you've got fuel in them. If you carry some spares, accelerator cable, clutch cable, fuel pump are probably the first important things that you want to carry. It will actually say 50, and that is the ignition live side. So, okay, Alex, and off, and on. See, as the ignition goes on and off, you can see we're getting ignition live and off. Everyone see that? See it going red? On, Alex.
What are you touching? Yeah.
On, Alex. As Alex turning the ignition switch on and off.
Yeah, but what are you touching?
I'm touching the coil. You've got a positive side and a negative side.
So you're on the coil.
These HT leads are quite resistive. They have a carbon trace on fiberglass inside, which transfers the electrical energy. They sometimes break. When you get a break in a plug lead, that changes the voltage that is applied to that spark plug. Obviously, it's a bad connection. So either inside, or sometimes these burn out and don't make contact. What you'll find is that you're driving along, instead of nice smooth 4 cylinders, suddenly you notice the traffic light particularly, it might simply be a plug lead. Nothing more serious than that. How do you guys find a bad plug lead? That's the difference. How do you guys find that? You need to buy yourself something that's going to insulate you from that very high energy spark. And what you're going to do is off-end the plug leads one at a time until you find the one where the engine doesn't change. That's the duff one. So your first port of call is to change back the plug and the lead. And see how good these engines are.